Hello again. In my last video I showed how I was putting some of the ironwork from the trailer into vinegar to clean some of the rust off. It's been in the vinegar now for probably 2 days. You can see what's happening. It's all sort of foamed up, which is indication that something's happened. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to take the bits out and wash them in the sink to see if there's any improvement. As you can see, it still looks a bit rusty. It hasn't seemed to have done that much to it. So what I'm going to do, I've got me bit of scrubbing brush here, and I'm just going to give it a wash in the water, and we'll see what happens. It won't get all the rust off, but it might improve it somewhat. Yeah, it's coming a bit better. Oh, it looks a lot better. Certainly got some of it off, the flaky stuff. Anyway, we'll give it a dry on the cloth. It's still got some surface marks on it, and that's mainly where it's been greasy and perhaps a bit of paint on it. But you can see the metal showing through now. Do the other one. Well, this one looks cleaner. I did give this a quick brush. I'm just gonna. That's the other one. See, that one's not too bad at all. That one, what happened was I left that in for a day, and then I took it out and rubbed some of the rust off with the scrubbing brush and chucked it back in again, and it is somewhat better than the other one. So taking the surface rust on in between dunking it in the vinegar obviously helps. Anyway, that's the power of vinegar, folks. And you've still got the vinegar left to put on your chips if you want to, although I don't think I'd fancy them much myself. Now we're going to do a bit cleaning up the rust off the framework of the trolley or trailer, whatever you want to call it. There's several ways to go about this, various tools you can use. One useful thing is just an ordinary scraper of some sort, which you can use to get any real surface rust and muck off it first. You can get all the loose bits off, and bits of grease and rubbish and everything like that, so that's useful. You can of course use an ordinary wire brush like this, but it's quite hard work if you've got a lot to do. But they're particularly useful when you do round the awkward bits, like this little point here where the sides fit on. An ordinary wire brush is sometimes quite useful for doing that. Notice the difference though. There's wire brushes and wire brushes. This is a cheaper one. This is a really old-fashioned one. Look at the difference in the bristles on it. They're much thicker. These are much thicker and stronger, whereas that's only a cheaper one. The ones you can get in places like these cheap pound shops and that are very, very peeny things. Some of them only got 3 rows of bristles and they're hopeless, so it's better to get a decent one. That's a really decent one, probably Second World War. I got this from my grandfather, I think, which is quite a good one, so I keep it. Now that's one way of doing it with wire brushes, but it's quite hard work. One of the best ways is to use an angle grinder if you've got one. This has got a twist cut brush in this one I've put in, and that is really powerful and will get a lot of rust off, and I'll show you that one in a minute. This is a twist cut. This is the actual brush in question. They're not very expensive. They're very, very strong bristles, and they're twisted around in the form of a cup. Fit it straight onto an angle grinder, the right thread, and they're really good. They do a really good job. If you haven't got an angle grinder, you can of course use a standard electric drill with one of these, but they are difficult to use. They're not very strong. They are much more difficult than an angle grinder because of the angle, and it's awkward holding the drill, and it tends to fly off, so I don't recommend those so much. The other thing which is useful, and it's better to use a combination of both, this is another spare angle grinder, is a flat wheel. This is a flat wheel for cleaning up rust off metal, and they're very effective, but you've got to be careful because they'll fetch a lot of the material off. They'll fetch paint off and rust, but they're quite abrasive. Now, when you're doing angle grinding, or using, especially with these wire wheels, or these twist cut wheels, there are 3 essential things really. One is wear a pair of gloves to protect your hands if you can. They're not so essential, but it's better if you can wear them. Wear a pair of headphones because they're quite noisy. And more important than anything, always when using an angle grinder, wear a pair of these goggles. And it's better to wear the full face ones like this that go right around your face, not just the ones that protect your eyes. These will protect bits flying in all directions. Those are essential. Don't use an angle grinder without them. You've only got 2 eyes, and they're probably one of the most precious things you've got. So make sure you always put these on when you're using an angle grinder. It's essential. I'm going to get me goggles and me headphones on, and I'll do a little bit with the wire brush first on here just to show how it works. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because you'll get bored. I'm going to use the twist cut brush first. It'll be a bit noisy. Now that's good for getting in all the corners and things. We'll now try the flat wheel. Right, here's my flat wheel. We'll have a go with this. Now as you can see, the flat wheel is pretty effective. I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see. Look at that. It's practically got down to base metal there. So all in all, the flat wheel is probably the best option to use. It's probably best to go over it with the wire twist brush first, just to get all the surface and loose flaky stuff off, and then put the flat wheel on. You could use the wire brush around the awkward parts, of course. You don't need to get all of the rust off. I'm just mainly getting the surface rust off and any flaky stuff and leaving it fairly smooth, because the hammerite paint I'm going to use will actually stop the rust. It works chemically to prevent it reforming. If you've got rusty old bolts that you can't get out, the easiest way is a pair of these bolt cutters. Just pop them on. I'll soon get rid of them. That's the best way, folks, if you've got some. Otherwise it's a hacksaw job. Well, I've done a bit of cleaning up on the frame. Two things have happened since then. Everything's going alright. First thing, the handle on the angle grinder decided to break in half. So I was using that one-handed, which is a bit awkward. So that's another job now. I've got to make a new handle for that. Unless I've got another spare one in stock anywhere. It's not very strong, but at the end of the day I can make a wooden one to fit on there if necessary. But that's just another job. This is the story of my life. I start doing one thing and end up doing several others. I've got to mend something else before I can carry on. I have got a second angle grinder, so I can use that. But it's just annoying that that snapped in the middle of working on it. The other thing is, I've got another problem on the frame I found down here. If I can zoom in a bit, you might be able to see it. Down there, I was cleaning it up. I've noticed that this weld down here, this has come apart and it's got unwelded along there, down that seam there and along the top. And looking at the other side, I've lost it now, where is it? Over there. Down here, it's a similar problem on this one as well. It's loose, it hasn't actually broken apart. Now it's not the end of the world, it can be mended. This one here in particular, there's two ways I can do it. One way is I could drill a hole through there and put a countersink bolt through with a nut on there to hold it together. That's one way I could do it. Not the best way, but it's probably the easiest way for the likes of me. The other way is to get the welding kit out and weld it. Now, to most people who are accomplished welders, it's not a problem at all and they do it in a flash. But with me, I'm not an expert welder. In fact, I'm pretty ropey at it. The reason is I don't do it enough. I've got a welding kit, but it's very rare that I use it, mainly because I'm not much cop at it. Probably if I spent time welding and practiced, I could get on with it. I can do most jobs, but it's a simple job really, I suppose. Anyway, we'll see how we get on. I might have a go at it. I probably won't film it because I'll look an idiot. These are the two handle fittings, the ones that I washed in the vinegar. I've now got the old wire brush on them and cleaned most of the surface off, and you can see what the vinegar does. They come up quite nicely. It wasn't necessary really because I'm going to paint them anyway, but I just wanted to show what the vinegar does basically. It's a good way of getting rid of rust. Anyway, that's one job done.